Something was terribly wrong with my granddaughters, and I was about to find out what. That should have been my first clue that this Tuesday morning would change everything. But when you're 73 years old and hiding three alien children in a world that wants them dead, you learn to ignore the small details and focus on survival. My name is Harold Mitchell, and 3 hours ago I was just another lonely widower buying groceries at the downtown market. Now I'm holding a government scanner that's beeping frantically, telling me that the three little girls giggling behind the apple stand aren't entirely earthly. The scanner falls from my trembling fingers, clattering on the concrete floor. Grandpa Harold, what's that noise? Asks Emma, the smallest of the three. Her voice carries that slight musical quality that most humans mistake for a cute accent. But I know better now. I've always known, deep down. Nothing, sweetheart, I lie, kicking the scanner under a fruit crate. Just dropped my shopping list. But it's not nothing. The heavy footsteps approaching our hiding spot aren't nothing. The red laser dots dancing across the market walls aren't nothing. And the fact that my own son's children, my beloved granddaughters, are lighting up every alien detection device within a 5-mile radius is definitely not nothing. 3 years. 3 years I've been raising these girls since my son David and his wife Maria died in that car accident. 3 years of bedtime stories, scraped knees, homework help, and tea parties. 3 years of loving them more than my own life. And I never suspected they weren't fully human. Sir, we need you to step away from those children. The voice is cold, mechanical, filtered through a gas mask. The Purity Enforcement Division doesn't take chances with contamination. I turn slowly, positioning myself between the girls and the 5 soldiers now surrounding our makeshift hiding spot behind the produce stands. Their weapons aren't pointed at me. They're aimed at 3 little girls who are currently arguing about whether unicorns or dragons make better pets. I'm sorry, officer, but I think there's been some mistake, I say, my voice steady despite the terror clawing at my chest. These are my granddaughters. We're just here buying fruit for their school lunches. The lead soldier, his name tag reads Captain Reynolds, steps closer. Behind his mask, I can see cold blue eyes that have never known doubt. Harold Mitchell, age 73, resident of 1247 Maple Street. Your son David Mitchell died 3 years ago in a vehicle collision along with his wife, Maria Santos Mitchell. He pauses, consulting a tablet. What he didn't tell you, Mr. Mitchell, is that Maria Santos wasn't entirely human. She was what we call a hybrid, half alien, half human, which makes these children 3/4 alien. The world tilts sideways. That's impossible, I whisper, but even as I say it, memories start flooding back. Maria's unnaturally bright green eyes, the way she could calm any crying baby just by humming. How she always seemed to know when storms were coming, days before the weather reports. David's secretive behavior in the months before his death. The way he'd insist on tucking the girls in himself, whispering to them in a language I didn't recognize. Grandpa Harold? Lucy, the middle child, tugs on my jacket. Why are those men wearing scary masks? I kneel down, putting myself at eye level with all 3 girls. Emma, 5 years old, with her mother's striking green eyes and an unsettling ability to make flowers bloom just by touching them. Lucy, 6, who can somehow understand any language she hears, and once told me she dreamed in colors that didn't have names. And Sarah, 7, who collects pretty rocks that turn out to be minerals that shouldn't exist on Earth. How did I never see it? Listen to me, girls, I say quietly, trying to keep my voice calm. Remember that game we used to play? Hide and seek? Well, we're going to play a very important game of hide and seek right now. But Grandpa, we don't want to play games, Sarah says, her dark eyes, so much like David's, filled with confusion. We want to go home and watch cartoons. Captain Reynolds steps forward, his weapon now openly displayed. Mr. Mitchell, please step away from the alien subjects. You're harboring illegal residents. The penalty for that is, they're children, I snap, standing up to face him. They're 7, 6, and 5 years old. They like ice cream and fairy tales, and they're afraid of the dark. What possible threat could they be to anyone? Their alien DNA carries genetic markers that could contaminate the human gene pool. Reynolds replies mechanically. They've been classified as code red biological hazards. Immediate containment and processing is required. Processing. The word hits me like a physical blow. Everyone knows what processing means for aliens caught on Earth. Nobody talks about it openly, but the empty camps and the grieving families tell the story clearly enough. Over my dead body, I growl. Reynolds tilts his head slightly. If necessary, Mr. Mitchell. But it doesn't have to come to that. These aren't really your grandchildren anyway. They're alien hybrids. Your real family is gone. These things are just mimicking human behavior. They've been programmed to make you think you love them. For a moment, his words sink in like poison. Could it be true? Have I been deceived for 3 years? Are the girls I've raised, loved, protected, and cherished just sophisticated alien imposters? Then Emma starts crying. Not the calculated crying of a creature trying to manipulate me, but the heartbroken sobs of a 5-year-old child who's scared and confused and wants her grandpa to make everything okay. Lucy wraps her arms around Emma protectively, and Sarah steps in front of both of them, trying to be brave, even though I can see her hands shaking. In that moment, I don't care if they're alien, human, or something else entirely. They're my girls. They're family. And family protects family. Run, I whisper to them. Remember the emergency plan? Go to the blue door we talked about. Mrs. Chen is waiting. But, Grandpa, Sarah starts. Go! I roar, turning to face the soldiers. And don't look back! The girls scatter like frightened sparrows, disappearing into the maze of market stalls and panicking shoppers. Reynolds raises his weapon, but I grab a nearby crate of apples and hurl it at him, buying precious seconds. Find them! Reynolds shouts to his team. Lock down all exits. They can't have gone far. But I know something Reynolds doesn't. These girls have been practicing escape routes for months, thinking it was just a fun game their paranoid grandfather made up. They know every hidey hole, every shortcut, every secret passage in this market. As soldiers spread out around me, barking orders into their radios, I allow myself one small smile. My granddaughters might be half alien, but they're also half human. The human half that loves adventure stories and treats evacuation drills like treasure hunts. The alien half that can do things Reynolds couldn't imagine in his worst nightmares. This is far from over. Mrs. Chen's blue door looks innocent enough from the outside, just another entrance to another small shop in Chinatown. But as I stumble through it 30 minutes later, bleeding from a graze on my temple and gasping for breath, I discover it leads to something much more significant. Harold, Mrs. Chen's voice carries relief and fear in equal measure. Thank God you made it. The girls are safe, but we need to move quickly. I find myself in what appears to be her herb shop, but Mrs. Chen presses a hidden panel. and the back wall swings open to reveal a staircase leading down into darkness. "What is this place?" I ask, following her down stone steps that seem much older than the building above. "Welcome to the Underground Railroad of the 21st century," she replies softly. "We've been operating for 15 years, ever since the purity laws were passed, helping mixed families escape to safe territories." The basement opens into a vast network of tunnels lined with modern lighting and ventilation systems. People move quietly through the corridors, some clearly human, others obviously not, and many, like my granddaughters, somewhere in between. "Grandpa Harold!" Emma's voice echoes from a side chamber, and suddenly I'm being tackled by 3 pairs of small arms. "Are you hurt?" Sarah asks, touching the bandage Mrs. Chen applied to my head. "Just a scratch, sweetheart." "Are you 3 okay?" "Mrs. Chen gave us cookies," Lucy announces as if alien hunters and underground networks are minor inconveniences compared to the serious business of snack time. Mrs. Chen guides us to a small room with cots and basic supplies. "You can rest here for now," she says. "But Harold, we need to talk." Once the girls are settled, Mrs. Chen leads me to another chamber that serves as some kind of command center. Maps cover the walls, marked with safe houses, patrol routes, and what look like escape corridors. Dozen people work quietly at computers and radio equipment. "How long have you known?" I ask her. "About the girls?" "Since the day you first brought Emma to my shop for ginger tea when she had that fever. The way she made my dying orchid bloom just by touching it was a pretty clear sign." Mrs. Chen pours tea from a thermos. "The question is, how long have you known?" "I found out 3 hours ago when that government scanner started screaming. But looking back," I shake my head, "there were signs. So many signs. I just didn't want to see them. David made you promise not to look too closely, didn't he?" The question hits me like a slap, because yes, he had. 3 years ago, when he'd brought the girls to stay with me just for a few weeks while he and Maria sorted out some business troubles, he'd taken me aside. "Dad," he'd said, "I need you to promise me something. No matter what happens, no matter what anyone tells you about the girls, remember that they're family, they're blood, and family takes care of family." At the time, I'd thought he was being overly dramatic. David always was a bit of a worrier, but he'd made me swear on my late wife's memory that I'd protect his daughters no matter what. 2 weeks later, he and Maria were dead. He knew this day would come, I realize aloud. Mrs. Chen nods grimly. "The Purity Enforcement Division has been systematically tracking down mixed families for years. Your son and daughter-in-law were running from them when they died. That car accident was no accident at all. The room spins around me. They were murdered. Captain Reynolds has been hunting Maria's family for over a decade. She was one of the few hybrids to successfully integrate into human society and have children. That made her extremely dangerous in their eyes, proof that coexistence was possible." I sink into a chair, the weight of 3 years of lies and half-truths crashing down on me. "So the girls are really your granddaughters. David was your son, Harold. That never changed. Maria was half Zentarian. Her mother was one of the first wave of refugees who arrived 30 years ago during the Zentarian Civil War. But that doesn't make the girls any less your family." "Zentarian?" Mrs. Chen pulls up a file on one of the computers. Photos and documents fill the screen. Images of a distant world with purple skies and silver cities, diplomatic records from first contact, immigration documents from the early refugees. Zentari was a peaceful planet about 40 light years from here. They had a civil war that lasted generations. Those who wanted to remain isolated versus those who wanted to join the galactic community. The isolationists won, but not before thousands of progressives fled to other worlds. Earth was one of their destinations. The photos show beings that look remarkably human, except for subtle differences. Slightly larger eyes, elongated fingers, skin that has an almost luminescent quality. They're beautiful, I murmur. They're also incredibly gifted. Enhanced empathy, accelerated learning, intuitive understanding of complex systems. The early refugees integrated so well into human society that many humans didn't even realize they were aliens. They married humans, had children, became teachers and doctors and artists. So what changed? Mrs. Chen's expression darkens. The Revelation Wars happened. 20 years ago, a group of extremist humans discovered the alien population and declared it an invasion. They claimed aliens were infiltrating human society to take over from within. Fear and paranoia spread like wildfire. She pulls up news footage from those years, protests, violence, politicians giving speeches about genetic purity and the threat within. It's horrible to watch, but I can't look away. The purity laws were passed 15 years ago, she continues. All aliens were required to register with the government. Mixed marriages were banned. Children with alien DNA were classified as biological hazards. What started as registration became segregation. Segregation became internment. And internment became processing, I finish quietly. We estimate there are fewer than 1,000 mixed families left in hiding across the entire continent. Your granddaughters represent something incredibly precious, the future of peaceful coexistence, if Reynolds captures them. He won't, I say firmly. What do we need to do? Mrs. Chen looks at me with new respect. The closest safe territory is the Northern Republic of Canada. They never signed the Purity Accords. Mixed families live openly there, protected by international law. But it's a dangerous journey, 300 miles through heavily patrolled territory. We'll make it. Harold, you need to understand something. The girls' abilities will only get stronger as they get older. Right now, they're mostly parlor tricks. Flowers blooming, understanding languages, finding special rocks. But in a few years, what happens in a few years? Zentarians develop their full psychic abilities during puberty, telepathy, telekinesis, precognitive dreams. Emma will be able to communicate with plant life on a deep level, not just making them grow, but actually hearing their thoughts. Lucy will be able to speak any language instantly, even read alien texts she's never seen before. And Sarah. What about Sarah? Mrs. Chen hesitates. Sarah's gift is the rarest and most powerful. Those pretty rocks she collects, they're not rocks at all. They're crystallized energy formations that only exist in areas of high psychic activity. She can sense energy patterns across vast distances. In a few years, she'll be able to manipulate matter at the molecular level. I think about my oldest granddaughter. Serious, protective Sarah, who always seems to understand more than she should, who somehow always finds us the best parking spots and knows when it's going to rain before the clouds form. She already knows, doesn't she? About what she is? I suspect all three of them know more than they let on. Zentarian children develop emotional intelligence very early. They've probably been protecting you by pretending to be more human than they are. The thought breaks my heart and fills me with pride simultaneously. My granddaughters have been taking care of me while I thought I was taking care of them. When do we leave? I ask. Tonight. There's a supply truck heading north at midnight. The driver is one of ours. He's been running this route for years, but Harold. What? Reynolds isn't going to give up. He's been hunting Maria's bloodline for too long to let the girls escape. He'll follow us. And when he catches up, she doesn't finish the sentence. I stand up, feeling older than my 73 years, but more determined than I've been in decades. Then we better make sure he doesn't catch us. As if summoned by our conversation, one of the radio operators calls out urgently, "Mrs. Chen, we're getting reports of increased enforcement division activity throughout the city. They've set up checkpoints on all major roads leading out of town." "How long before they find us here?" I ask. "This location has been secure for over a decade," Mrs. Chen replies, but her voice carries uncertainty. "But if they have a full sweep order..." An explosion somewhere above us sends dust raining from the ceiling. Emergency lights flicker on as the regular power cuts out. "They found us!" someone shouts. Mrs. Chen grabs my arm. "Get the girls!" We're leaving now. As I run back toward the room where my granddaughters are waiting, one thought echoes in my mind. How far will I go to protect them? And how far will Reynolds go to capture them? I'm about to find out. The evacuation of the underground sanctuary is like watching a well-rehearsed dance. Within minutes of the first explosion, dozens of families are moving through predetermined escape routes, carrying emergency packs and following guides who know every tunnel by heart. But something feels wrong. "This way, Mr. Mitchell," calls Jake, our assigned guide, a young man with nervous eyes and hands that shake as he leads us through a narrow tunnel. The emergency exit is just ahead. The girls stay close to me, Emma holding my left hand while Lucy grips my right. Sarah walks slightly ahead, and I notice she keeps glancing back at Jake with a worried expression. "Grandpa," Sarah whispers, "I don't think..." "Keep moving, keep quiet," Jake interrupts. "We need to reach the surface before they find this tunnel." But Sarah's concern proves justified when we reach what should be the emergency exit and find ourselves facing a dead end. Solid concrete wall with no door, no ladder, no way out. "No, I'm sorry," Jake says, and his voice has changed completely. The nervous tremor is gone, replaced by cold calculation. "I really am sorry about this." He pulls out a small device and presses a button. Immediately, bright lights flood the tunnel from both directions, and I hear the heavy footsteps of soldiers approaching. "You son of a..." I start, but Jake cuts me off. "I have a family too, Mr. Mitchell. 2 kids, ages 3 and 8. The enforcement division has them in a secure facility. They told me they'd be released unharmed if I helped them capture the Zentarian hybrids." His face is twisted with guilt and desperation. "I'm sorry, but I can't let my children die for yours." The soldiers surround us quickly, led by Captain Reynolds himself. In the harsh, artificial light, I can see his face clearly for the first time, younger than I expected, maybe 40, with the kind of cold intelligence that makes him even more dangerous than simple brutality would. "Mr. Mitchell," he says conversationally, as if we're meeting at a neighborhood barbecue, "you've led us quite a chase. I have to admit, I'm impressed. For a civilian, you've shown remarkable resourcefulness." "Let the girls go," I say. "I'm the one who harbored them. Arrest me." Reynolds laughs, but there's no humor in it. "Oh, we'll be arresting you, don't worry." Harboring alien entities, interfering with a federal investigation, conspiracy against the state. You're looking at life in prison at minimum. But the girls. He studies them with the clinical interest of a scientist examining specimens. The girls are coming with us. No. Emma suddenly breaks away from me and runs toward the soldiers, but not to escape. She's running to a small crack in the tunnel wall where a tiny plant has managed to grow in the darkness. When she touches it, the plant begins to spread, growing rapidly along the walls and ceiling. Fascinating, Reynolds murmurs, pulling out a recording device. Subject displays botanical manipulation abilities consistent with Zentarian genetics. Make note of the response speed and coverage area. Emma, stop, I call, but it's too late. The plants are spreading everywhere, thick vines that begin to crack the concrete and expose the metal framework beneath. Lucy suddenly starts speaking rapidly in a language I've never heard before. Musical, complex, beautiful. One of the soldiers steps closer to listen, then freezes as if transfixed. She's putting them under some kind of influence, Reynolds snaps. Neural manipulation through linguistic patterns. Tranquilize her now. But before anyone can move, Sarah steps forward. The pretty rocks she's been collecting for years, which she somehow managed to bring with her despite our hasty escape, begin to glow in her pockets. Stop hurting my grandpa, she says quietly. The tunnel fills with an eerie blue light. The soldiers' weapons begin to malfunction, their electronic equipment shorting out in showers of sparks. Even Reynolds' recording device dies in his hand. Electromagnetic manipulation, he whispers in what might be awe or terror. She's generating some kind of localized pulse field. For a moment, it looks like we might actually escape. The soldiers are confused, their equipment is failing, and Emma's rapidly growing plants are creating chaos throughout the tunnel. But then Jake pulls out an old-fashioned chemical sedative dart, the kind that doesn't rely on electronics, and shoots Sarah before anyone can stop him. My oldest granddaughter collapses instantly. The blue light dies, the plants stop growing, and Lucy's strange singing cuts off in a terrified wail. Sarah! I lunge toward her, but two soldiers grab me and force me to my knees. The older one is definitely the most dangerous, Reynolds observes, kneeling beside Sarah's unconscious form. Look at those energy readings, even while sedated. We'll need to keep her under constant chemical suppression. You're monsters, I spit. They're just children. They're weapons of mass destruction in the bodies of children, Reynolds replies calmly. Do you have any idea what a fully mature centenarian could do to human society? They could control our leaders' minds, manipulate our technology, turn our own planet against us. These three represent the first generation of beings who could literally conquer Earth without firing a shot. He stands up, dusting off his knees. Take the old man for processing. Separate containment for each of the subjects. I don't want them communicating with each other or combining their abilities. As soldiers move to grab Emma and Lucy, Mrs. Chen's voice echoes through the tunnel from hidden speakers. Attention all units. This is Sanctuary Control. Emergency Protocol 7 is now in effect. Repeat, Protocol 7 is active. Protocol 7. Mrs. Chen had mentioned it briefly. The last resort when a sanctuary was compromised. Complete sterilization of the facility to protect other locations. Everyone out! Reynolds shouts, move, move, move! But as we're being herded toward the surface, explosions begin rocking the underground complex. Not attack explosions, these are controlled demolitions, bringing down tunnels and destroying evidence. In the chaos, something miraculous happens. Sarah, despite the sedative, opens her eyes just enough to touch the wall beside her. The metal framework throughout the tunnel begins to resonate with that same blue energy. The whole structure is destabilizing, one of the soldiers yells. A section of ceiling collapses between us and the soldiers holding Emma and Lucy. In the dust and confusion, I hear Mrs. Chen's voice again, not over the speakers this time, but shouting from somewhere in the darkness. This way! Quickly! Somehow, in the midst of the collapse, Mrs. Chen and what remains of her organization extract Emma and Lucy from the chaos. I catch one glimpse of them disappearing into a side tunnel I hadn't noticed before. But Sarah is still unconscious, still being carried by Reynolds' men. They reach the surface through a different exit, taking my oldest granddaughter with them. As I'm dragged toward a government transport vehicle, I can only pray that Mrs. Chen's people can get the two younger girls to safety. But my heart is breaking as I watch the van carrying Sarah disappear into the night. "Don't worry, Mr. Mitchell," Reynolds says, apparently reading my expression. "You'll be seeing her again very soon. We have questions about Zentarian abilities that only a family member can help us answer." The transport door slams shut, and I find myself alone in a metal box, racing toward an unknown fate. But one thought burns in my mind like fire. This isn't over. Not by a long shot. My granddaughters, all three of them, are stronger and more resourceful than Reynolds can possibly imagine. And they have something he'll never understand: the power of a family that will never give up on each other. No matter what it takes, we're going to be together again. The Purity Enforcement Division's research facility turns out to be a converted maximum security prison about 2 hours outside the city. From my cell window, I can see guard towers, electrified fences, and patrol vehicles moving in regular patterns around the perimeter. They've separated me from Sarah, but I know she's here somewhere. For 3 days, I've been watching the schedules, listening to conversations, trying to figure out the layout of this place. I'm not the only family member being held here. There are dozens of us: parents, grandparents, siblings of mixed heritage individuals who've been captured over the years. We're allowed to interact in a common area for 2 hours each day, and that's where I learn the full scope of what Reynolds has been doing. They call it the integration protocol, explains Marcus, a man about my age whose daughter married a Zentarian refugee 15 years ago. They use family members to coerce cooperation from the mixed heritage detainees. Tell us about your abilities, or we'll hurt your loved ones. "How long have you been here?" I ask. 18 months. My daughter. She held out for 6 months before they broke her. Now she helps them understand Zentarian psychology in exchange for supervised visits with her children. His voice carries the weight of absolute defeat. But I'm not ready to be defeated. Not yet. During my 4th night in the facility, I'm awakened by a soft tapping on my cell wall. Morse code, something David taught me when he was a Boy Scout decades ago. GRANDPA. "Sarah?" I whisper, tapping back. "YES. AREYOUK HURTBUTALIVE EMMALUCYSAFE." The tapping stops for a long moment, then continues. "DONTKNOW MISSYOU." My heart breaks all over again. She's 7 years old, alone in this terrible place, and she's worried about me. MISSYOUTOOBESTRONGGOINGTOGETUSOUT. Sarah has always been the most mature of the three girls, but hearing her talk about escape plans fills me with both pride and terror. What are they doing to her in those research sessions I hear about? The next morning, I'm summoned to meet with Dr. Elizabeth Kane, the facility's chief researcher. Her office is sterile and cold, dominated by monitors showing surveillance footage from throughout the facility. Mr. Mitchell, she says, not looking up from her files, your granddaughter is quite remarkable. In just 4 days, we've documented abilities that exceed our models for first-generation hybrids. She's a 7-year-old child, I reply, not a lab rat. She's a potentially dangerous entity with capabilities we don't fully understand. Dr. Kane finally looks at me, a woman in her 50s with the kind of detached professionalism that makes her more frightening than Reynolds' obvious hostility. Yesterday, she managed to interfere with our electronic surveillance systems from inside a magnetically sealed cell. That should be physically impossible. Maybe your equipment is just defective. Mr. Mitchell, I'm going to show you something. She turns one of the monitors toward me. This is footage from yesterday's session. The video shows Sarah in what looks like a medical examination room, connected to various sensors and monitors. Dr. Kane's voice can be heard asking questions about Zentarian culture, abilities, and weaknesses. Sarah refuses to answer any of them. Now watch what happens when we mention you, Dr. Kane says. On screen, a technician enters the room and whispers something to the other researchers. Immediately, Sarah's vital signs spike, and the electronic equipment around her begins to malfunction. She's somehow channeling emotional distress into electromagnetic disruption, Dr. Kane explains. The stronger her feelings, the more powerful the effect. It's quite fascinating from a scientific standpoint. You're torturing a child. We're studying an unknown life form that could pose a threat to human civilization. Her voice remains calm, clinical. But here's the interesting part, Mr. Mitchell. Her abilities seem to be triggered specifically by threats to family members. When we discuss harming you, her power output increases exponentially. The implication hits me like a physical blow. You want to use me to torture her into cooperating. I prefer to think of it as providing proper motivation for compliance. Dr. Kane closes the file. Your granddaughter has information we need about Zentarian capabilities and weaknesses. With your help, we can acquire that information efficiently. Without your help, she doesn't need to finish the threat. What kind of information? How their psychic abilities develop, what their limitations are, how they communicate with each other across distances, most importantly, how their abilities can be suppressed or countered. She leans forward. Mr. Mitchell, I'm going to be frank with you. There are approximately 8,000 Zentarian hybrids scattered across this continent. Most are still children or teenagers. In 10 years, they'll reach full maturity, and their combined psychic potential could pose an existential threat to human society as we know it. Or they could help make the world a better place. That's a risk the government is not willing to take. She stands up. You have 24 hours to convince your granddaughter to cooperate. If she doesn't provide us with useful information by tomorrow evening, we'll be forced to employ more intensive interrogation techniques. As guards escort me back to my cell, my mind races. Sarah is trying to protect me by not cooperating, but her resistance is only making things worse for both of us. I need to find a way to communicate with her. Really communicate, not just through wall tapping. That night, during the 2-hour common area period, I seek out Marcus again. Has anyone ever escaped from this place? I ask quietly. He looks around nervously before answering. There are rumors. Some people say there's a network that helps families on the inside, but I've never seen proof. What kind of network? Mixed heritage individuals who work here, orderlies, maintenance staff, even some guards, people who believe the integration protocol is wrong. He pauses. But it's dangerous to even talk about it. If you're caught, Marcus, I interrupt, if there was a chance, just a chance to get your family out of here, would you take it? He looks at me for a long moment, and I see something I haven't seen before. Hope. What are you thinking, Harold? Before I can answer, an orderly approaches us. A young woman with the slightly elongated features that mark her as mixed heritage. She's mopping the floor nearby, but I notice she's been cleaning the same spot for several minutes. The walls have ears here, she says quietly, not looking at us directly, but they don't have eyes everywhere. Third stall in the men's bathroom, loose tile behind the toilet. Check it after lights out. She moves on, continuing her cleaning routine as if nothing happened. That night, I follow her instructions. Behind the loose tile, I find a small package wrapped in plastic. Inside is a hand-drawn map of the facility, a schedule of guard rotations, and a note. Tomorrow night, power outage at 11:47 p.m. Emergency lighting only. Be ready to move when you hear the fire alarm. Stay close to the walls. Avoid the main corridors. Someone will guide you to your granddaughter. At the bottom of the note, in different handwriting, is a message that makes my heart soar. E and L are safe. Coming to get you and S. Don't give up. Mrs. C, Emma, and Lucy are safe. Mrs. Chen's people are planning a rescue. And tomorrow night, we're all going home. But as I lie in my narrow cot, staring at the ceiling, one thought keeps me awake. What if it's a trap? What if Reynolds and Dr. Kane are using the promise of escape to manipulate us into revealing the underground network? There's only one way to find out. Tomorrow night, we either escape together or we face whatever comes next as a family. Either way, I'm not giving up on my granddaughters. The power goes out at exactly 11:47 p.m. For a moment, the facility is plunged into complete darkness. Then, emergency lighting kicks in, bathing everything in an eerie red glow that makes the corridors look like something from a nightmare. The fire alarm starts shrieking 3 minutes later. I'm already dressed and waiting by my cell door when it suddenly clicks open. Electronic locks, I realize. They default to open during power failures to prevent people from being trapped during emergencies. Following the map from behind the bathroom tile, I move quickly through corridors that should be crawling with guards, but are mysteriously empty. The red emergency lights create strange shadows, and I have to resist the urge to run. Stay calm, stay quiet, stay close to the walls. I find Sarah's cell block after what feels like hours, but is probably only 10 minutes. Her door is also open, and she's sitting on her cot as if she's been waiting for me. "Grandpa," she whispers, running into my arms. "Are you hurt, sweetheart?" I check her over quickly, looking for signs of injury or abuse. They asked me lots of questions, but I didn't tell them anything important. She looks up at me with David's serious dark eyes. "I knew you'd come for me." "We need to go now," I tell her. "Emma and Lucy are waiting for us. But as we move toward the exit route marked on the map, we hear footsteps echoing from the main corridor. Heavy boots, moving with purpose. The guards are conducting a systematic sweep despite the emergency. "This way," I whisper, pulling Sarah toward a service corridor that should take us around the patrol. We're halfway down the narrow hallway when bright lights suddenly flood the space ahead of us. Captain Reynolds steps out of a side passage, flanked by 4 guards with weapons drawn. "Did you really think it would be that easy, Mr. Mitchell?" His voice carries a mixture of amusement and disappointment. A convenient power outage? Unlocked doors? A helpful map? My heart sinks as I realize the truth. It was a trap. The orderly, the note, the map, all carefully orchestrated to make us reveal our escape routes and any accomplices we might have. The underground network is even more resourceful than we imagined, Reynolds continues, using mixed heritage employees, coded messages, detailed facility intelligence. We've learned quite a lot from your little rescue attempt. Sarah squeezes my hand tighter, and I can feel her trembling. But when she speaks, her voice is steady. "You're the bad man who hurt my family. I'm the man who's trying to protect humanity from your family," Reynolds replies. "Do you understand what you are, child? What you represent?" "I'm Sarah Mitchell. I live at 1247 Maple Street with my grandpa Harold. I like chocolate ice cream and storybooks. I collect pretty rocks." She takes a step forward, and I notice the emergency lighting begins to flicker. "And you made Emma and Lucy cry." "Sarah, don't—" I start to warn her, but it's too late. The pretty rocks in her pockets begin to glow with that eerie blue light I've seen before. But this time it's different. Brighter, more focused, more controlled. The electronic equipment on the guard's belt starts sparking and shorting out. "Tranquilize her," Reynolds shouts, but his men's weapons have already been disabled by the electromagnetic pulse. Sarah raises her small hand, and one of the rocks floats out of her pocket, hovering in the air and pulsing with energy. "That's not a rock," Reynolds whispers in what might be awe or terror. "It's a memory crystal," Sarah says simply. "Mommy gave it to me before she went away. She said it would help me remember who I am and where I came from." The crystal pulses brighter, and suddenly the air around us fills with images. Holographic projections that show scenes I've never seen before. A woman with luminous green eyes and elongated features holds a baby with dark human eyes. The same woman teaching 3 small children to tend a garden full of impossible flowers. A man who looks like David, but somehow more alien, reading bedtime stories in a language that sounds like music. "Maria?" I breathe, recognizing my daughter-in-law in the projections, but seeing her true form for the first time. "These are Mommy's memories," Sarah explains to Reynolds, as if she's teaching a particularly slow student. "She wanted me to show them to people who forgot how to love instead of fear." The projections shift, showing scenes of Zentarians and humans working together, playing together, raising families together. Beautiful alien children learning human nursery rhymes. Human children learning to make flowers bloom with their minds. Mixed families celebrating holidays that combine traditions from 2 worlds. "This is what you're trying to destroy," I tell Reynolds, who stands transfixed by the holographic memories. "Not monsters or invaders. Families. Love. Hope for a better future." But Reynolds shakes off the spell of the projections and pulls out an old-fashioned chemical dart gun, the same type Jake used to capture Sarah before. "Enough," he snarls. "I don't care how pretty the propaganda is. Mixed heritage individuals represent a threat to human genetic purity." And he doesn't finish the sentence because the facility's lights suddenly come back on. Not the emergency lighting, but full power. And with them comes the sound I've been hoping to hear all night. The distinctive whine of Mrs. Chen's underground transport vehicles. What the hell? Reynolds spins toward the sound. The power outage wasn't the rescue, I realize aloud. It was the distraction. Explosions echo from multiple points around the facility's perimeter, not the controlled demolitions from before. These are breaching charges, creating holes in the walls and fences. They're not trying to sneak us out, I tell Sarah, who's still maintaining the holographic display while somehow monitoring everything happening around us. They're staging a full assault. Reynolds speaks rapidly into his radio, but only static comes back. Sarah's electromagnetic field is still disrupting their communications. The memory crystal, she says to me quietly, it's not just showing Mommy's memories. It's calling to other crystals. Emma and Lucy have them too. As if summoned by her words, two more pulses of blue light flicker from somewhere else in the facility. Emma and Lucy, they're here, and they're using their own crystals to coordinate with Sarah. Impossible, Reynolds mutters. They're 300 miles away under maximum security transport. You never learned the most important thing about our family, I tell him, feeling a surge of pride and hope. We don't abandon each other. Ever. The sound of combat is getting closer. Energy weapons, shouting voices, the crash of barriers being destroyed. Mrs. Chen's people aren't just rescuing us, they're liberating the entire facility. Reynolds makes one last desperate attempt to regain control of the situation. He aims the dart gun directly at me. Call off your friends or your grandfather dies right here, he tells Sarah. But Sarah just smiles, an expression far too knowing for a 7-year-old child. Mrs. Chen told me you'd say that, she replies. That's why we brought backup. The wall behind Reynolds explodes inward, showering the corridor with concrete and metal. Through the smoking gap steps a figure in tactical gear, weapon raised and ready. It takes me a moment to recognize her without the apron and the scent of herbs. Mrs. Chen looks like a completely different person in full combat gear. Younger, deadlier, every inch the professional soldier. Her weapon is unlike anything I've ever seen, crackling with the same blue energy that emanates from Sarah's crystals. Captain Reynolds, she says conversationally, you're under arrest for crimes against humanity, unlawful imprisonment, and conspiracy to commit genocide. By whose authority? Reynolds demands. The Interplanetary Council of Refugee Affairs, Mrs. Chen replies. I'm Agent Chen, Special Investigations Division. I've been undercover for 15 years, monitoring your integration protocol and gathering evidence of systematic human rights violations. The world tilts around me as I realize the full scope of what's been happening. Mrs. Chen isn't just running an underground network for mixed families. She's been conducting an official investigation for an interplanetary government. The herb shop, the underground sanctuary, all of it. All part of a legal law enforcement operation, she confirms. We've been building a case against the Purity Enforcement Division and the governments that support it. Harold, Sarah, you've both been under official protection this entire time. Reynolds raises his dart gun toward Mrs. Chen, but Sarah's crystal pulses again, and the weapon simply disintegrates in his hand. Mommy's memories showed me something else, Sarah tells him sadly. They showed me that some people are so afraid of being different that they forget how to be human. I'm sorry you're one of those people. As Mrs. Chen and her team secure Reynolds and his guards, other rescue teams spread through the facility, liberating prisoners and gathering evidence. I watch families reunite in corridors that were scenes of fear just hours ago. Where are Emma and Lucy? I ask. Safe, Mrs. Chen assures me. They're in the command vehicle with our medical team, making sure they haven't been harmed. They've been asking for you and Sarah non-stop. As we make our way toward the exit, Sarah tugs on my jacket. Grandpa, are we really going home now? I think about our house on Maple Street, our quiet life before all this started, the simple days when my biggest worry was whether the girls were eating enough vegetables, that life is gone forever. But looking at Sarah, still holding her mother's memory crystal, still surrounded by the fading holographic images of a family that spans two worlds, I realize something important. Home isn't a place. It's the people you love and who love you back. Yes, sweetheart, I tell her, we're going home. All of us, together. Outside the facility, in Mrs. Chen's command vehicle, Emma and Lucy launched themselves into my arms like small missiles. For the first time in days, all three of my granddaughters are safe, and we're together. What happens now? I ask Mrs. Chen as we drive away from the smoking remains of the research facility. Now we prepare for trial, she replies. The evidence we've gathered here will be presented to the Interplanetary Council. The purity laws will be overturned, the detention camps will be closed, and mixed families will be granted full legal protection. And Reynolds? Captain Reynolds and everyone involved in the integration protocol will face justice for their crimes. Her expression hardens. What they've done here, the imprisonment, the experimentation, the systematic persecution of mixed heritage families, it's unconscionable by any civilized standard. Sarah looks up from where she's been showing her memory crystal to Emma and Lucy. Will there be more people like Captain Reynolds? She asks. People who are afraid of us. Mrs. Chen considers the question carefully before answering. Yes, sweetheart, there probably will be. Fear of the unknown is one of the oldest human emotions. But there will also be more people like your grandfather. People who choose love over fear, family over prejudice, hope over hatred. As we drive through the night toward whatever comes next, I hold my granddaughters close and think about the long road ahead, the legal battles, the social changes, the challenge of building a world where humans and Zentarians can live together in peace. It won't be easy, but looking at these three remarkable little girls, human and alien, earthborn and star-touched, my family in every way that matters, I know it will be worth every struggle. Because sometimes the future of two worlds comes down to one simple choice. Do we choose fear or do we choose love? Tonight, love won. Epilogue, 5 years later. The garden behind our new house in the Northern Republic is unlike anything Earth has ever seen before. Emma, now 10 years old, has learned to coax plants from both worlds to grow side by side. Roses climb trellises next to luminescent Zentarian vines, and the vegetable patch produces tomatoes that glow softly in the moonlight. Lucy, 11, works as a junior translator for the Interplanetary Cultural Exchange Program. She spends her afternoons helping newly arrived Zentarian refugees learn English and teaching human children the musical language of the stars. Her dream is to become an ambassador when she grows up. Sarah, 12, is already showing signs of the advanced abilities Mrs. Chen predicted. Last week, she helped local geologists discover a new mineral deposit by sensing energy patterns from 3 miles away. Her collection of pretty rocks now fills an entire room, and scientists from both worlds come to study her crystals. And me? I'm still just Grandpa Harold, maker of pancakes, reader of bedtime stories, and the luckiest man in 2 galaxies. The legal proceedings took 2 years, but the Interplanetary Council's verdict was unanimous. The purity laws were declared crimes against humanity, and mixed families were granted full legal protection throughout the solar system. Captain Reynolds is serving a life sentence for his role in the integration protocol, while Dr. Kane and others involved received varying terms based on their level of cooperation with investigators. More importantly, the camps are closed. The underground networks that once operated in secret now work openly as resettlement agencies, helping mixed families find new homes and rebuild their lives. Mrs. Chen, or Agent Chen, as I still sometimes call her, directs the North American branch of the Refugee Assistance Program. The world hasn't become perfect overnight. There are still people who fear the changes, still politicians who campaign on promises to protect human purity, still incidents of discrimination and violence. But they're fighting a losing battle against the tide of history. Because the truth is, once people see what Emma can do with flowers, or watch Lucy bridge language barriers with a smile, or witness Sarah helping solve problems that have puzzled scientists for years, it becomes very hard to see them as threats rather than gifts. This evening, as I watch my granddaughters play in their impossible garden, I think about David and Maria. I wish they could see their daughters now, confident, capable, loved by both the human and Zentarian communities. I think they'd be proud of the young women the girls are becoming, and of the world we're all building together. Grandpa Harold, Emma calls from beside the pond, where she's teaching earthfish to swim alongside their bioluminescent Zentarian cousins. Come see what Lucy found. I walk over to where Lucy is kneeling beside a small depression in the ground. In her hands is a crystal unlike any in Sarah's collection, clear as water, but somehow containing what looks like swirling starlight. It was just lying here, Lucy says wonderingly, like it was waiting for us. Sarah approaches, her own crystals beginning to resonate in response to the new discovery. It's not from Zentari, she says quietly. It's from somewhere else. Somewhere farther away. The three girls look at each other and I see a familiar expression pass between them. The same look they shared before our great adventure began. Girls, I say carefully, please tell me you're not sensing the arrival of refugees from a third alien world. They grin at me with identical expressions of mischief and excitement. Well, Emma begins. It's complicated, Lucy continues, but definitely interesting, Sarah finishes. I sigh, but I'm smiling too. After everything we've been through, the fear, the persecution, the narrow escapes, the legal battles, the long process of building a new life, I've learned something important. Adventure isn't something that happens to you. It's something you choose. And when you choose adventure with family, when you choose love over fear and hope over hatred, even the most impossible challenges become just another part of your story. All right, I tell my granddaughters as the mysterious crystal pulses with light from distant stars. But this time, we're calling Mrs. Chen before anyone starts glowing or floating or making plants grow in impossible patterns. They laugh and agree, but I can already see them planning. Whatever comes next, whatever new challenges we'll face, whatever new wonders we'll discover, we'll face them together, because that's what family does. Human, Zentarian, or something else entirely, family takes care of family. And sometimes, if we're very lucky, family gets to save the universe along the way. The crystal in Lucy's hands pulses brighter, as if responding to my thoughts. In the growing twilight, I can almost swear I hear something like music, a song from the spaces between stars, welcoming us to the next chapter of our story. I take each of my granddaughters by the hand and we walk toward the house together, ready for whatever tomorrow might bring. After all, we've handled alien invasions, government conspiracies, and interdimensional refugees before. How hard could it be? Hard